So welcome to the monthly Pass It On Network 50-50 session. This is a conversation. A lot of things can happen here. We always talk about not always the obvious topics, and sometimes they're very connected to aging, and sometimes they're a little bit stepping away and giving us a bigger picture. We've experienced it a lot in the last year, and today is one of those times. But before we start, I just wanted to mention that we're going to aim for 1 hour, but we're leaving ourselves about 15 minutes for just in case we have a lot more to say. Today we are welcoming Silvia Zweifel. Silvia is our long-time Pass It On Network member. She's from Argentina, from Buenos Aires. Silvia, if you can just wave. Yeah, so you can see Silvia. There's Silvia. Silvia is an innovative system thinker and an economist. She brings a wealth of experience from her extensive years in the banking industry. When Silvia turned 42, she embarked on a transformative journey in pursuit of systemic innovation. And through reflection, study, and reconnecting with her childhood experiences of abundance and joy, Silvia nurtured the concept of Economía AMABLE, an inclusive and life-sustaining culture that promotes joyful longevity. That was a mouthful. And I'm going to pass it on to Silvia now to explain to us, what does it all mean? So Silvia, it's all yours.
Thank you, Osnat, for presenting me, introducing me here, and for choosing the title of this encounter. What the world needs now is Economía AMABLE. It is for me a great pleasure to present this here today, since Pass It On Network attracted me because it is a vibrant community, very genuinely committed to the well-being of people worldwide, particularly older people. And our journey today will be a guided reflection and hopefully a co-creating process and a we experience. There will be exercises, concepts, examples, tools, and opportunities for you to contribute. This is about what is at stake for us as humanity today and what an Economía AMABLE has to offer to better navigate those huge challenges we are facing today. These two words in Spanish, economía and amable. Economía stands for economy. All those activities we perform individually and collectively to satisfy our needs. And it also includes nature's services. So it is more than money, yeah? And amable stands for amiability. It derives from a Latin word, amabilitas, which means conducive to love. For something to be conducive to love, it has to come from love. Love, nurturing love. Individuals and collectives. So little by little, we are immersed in love. We will begin with an exercise, a preparation exercise to be fully present and refreshed, to plant a seed question, which is an anticipatory exercise. A seed question does not require an answer. What it requires is to watering it, to refreshing it. A week after, a month, a year, it doesn't matter. Answers will come when we are mature for them. perhaps in the less expected moment. So now let's go to the exercise. Please, if you can put your shoes off to ground your feet flat on the floor, the four corners very gently touching the floor, so you feel connected to a base. And put your sitting bones even on the sit and ground, let it ground. Your spine upright, flexible, and open yourself from your heart. Yeah, if you wish and can, you can extend your arms to do that. Yeah, and do this. Do this. Rub your hands together and feel the warmth there. And there is always a space between them. And acknowledge that it is energizing yourself from your own heart, because there is where the arms really end, yeah, in the region of our heart. So feel this gently, feel the energy, yeah. And now do this, massage gently, yeah, feel this energy and gently touch your arms. Yeah, you can touch also, if you can even stand up if you wish. Yeah. And again, sitting bones very, very well placed. And now you can close your eyes and touch your skin very softly. You touch your skin. Place your hands on your eyes and soften your skin. And now put your hands on the region of your heart and feel the in-breath and the out-breath, how you breathe. Yeah? Just pay attention to the flow of the air coming in, expanding, and coming out. Several times we do that. We only pay attention to this as much as possible, at least. Yeah, in this way, we acknowledge that we are immersed in something greater that vitalizes us all the time. Yeah. Thank you. Now, if you have your eyes closed, open them. And now we are ready to plant our seed question, which is, which is the world you wish to live in? Which is the world we wish to live in? Resonate with this question. A world that has a good place to offer to everyone. A world in which the rights of older people are easily met, served. A world that highly values older people, their experience, wisdom, and presence. So, stay there with this question for a moment while I open the slides to go on to the concepts. One more time. Which is the world you wish to live in? Which is the world we wish to live in? This acknowledges our participatory nature, the me and the we together, always interacting, inter-influencing each other. From another angle, the or and the and. The many, many, many individuals interacting in many, many, many collectives in the world at large. This we just did was an anticipatory exercise. And what it is that we connect with a desirable future, there where a vision of our world, which is not somewhere else, it is here and now. And from there, it illumines our path, redeeming the past, acknowledging lessons learned, what worked well and what didn't work so well. And that we let go. Yeah. Always from an amable stance, a compassionate, non-judgmental outlook. It places us in an enriched present, expanding our consciousness, allowing the awareness that past, present, and future are together, here and now, wherever you are. And it highly values the moment of choice, that instant in which the embodied, each one of us, breathes, lives, and chooses. In other words, if we know where we want to go, we will find a path, since we have a direction. This phrase I crafted inspired in a dialogue of Alice in Wonderland, which is quite different, but still I have to acknowledge, to be honest. Now, what is at stake for us? Changes are fast and faster each day. But more than an era of changes, this is about a change of era, a tipping point, a bifurcation. Two alternative possibilities are at stake. Since our planetary system, our species, is under great tension, or reorganizing itself. What happens with these processes is that once the process is completed, one of those alternatives will be in place. A miserable one or a promising one. And because of our participatory nature, we have a protagonic role to play in this process, at least an important role in this challenging complexity. Complexity means that there is much at play together. We live in a world of high complexity. Everything is related to everything else in some particular way. There is high interrelation and high interdependence. And because of that, even if today there are more or less 8 billion people alive on this planet, it is as if we were more than 100 billion. Complexity cannot be simplified. To address it, we need the proper lenses. And the mainstream mainly uses fragmented thinking, with the poor outcomes we all know. There is a need to enrich the perspective, to upgrade lenses, not only for or, to also add the and. And not everything is complex. there is keep simple what is simple. If we are going to prepare a meal, we have the right ingredients, a preparation process, and something yummy comes up. So this is two different, that's why we need the lenses for both of them. One important concept for complexity is acknowledging levels of reality and its correspondent levels of perception. All of us, I think, we are familiar with the physical image of our planet, the first one here, and also with a political one that is here. Even if nobody explains that to us, we can realize that those two refer to the same system, but there are correspond to different levels of realities and perception. Yeah. Sometimes there is a border in the middle of a channel, and there is water, and they say, oh, there is Chile and there is Argentina, but nobody can see it with their physical eyes. And really, what is key here is that this yellow one, the cultural level. Since there are our beliefs, values, knowledge, and wisdom, there are placed the lenses with which we address the world. And if we come, there are others we don't see, like the legal, you know, all those regulations that are meant to help us. But since most of them come from a fragmented thinking, sometimes they create nightmares, and there are digestos to digest it, to simplify something. And the financial is the same. The financial system we have today was born some 500 years ago, and it uses fragmented thinking, cutting time in pieces. And everybody knows, I think, they say, time is money. You say it. And the cyberspace is a level we as humanity created some 70 years ago, and very quickly it's developing very quickly, to an extent that today there are many words about AI, but this is something that already is with us since a long time. That's why the key to something better is the cultural. So what is needed now is cultural innovation, nurturing wisdom and amiability, a pair that goes together at the individual and collective level. From there, with that, we can illuminate the knowledge, the appropriate knowledge we need and already have today, and the appropriate information. You know, that overwhelming quantity of information, much of those even fake, but we have what we need. And a way to do that is by nurturing attractors, to place what we really want at the very center. And here there is a tool to nurture unity, diversity. There is no fragmentation here, no possibility of it. At the center, there is what unites us. And many, many petals there from different kinds. Those different colors can be groups of affinity, nations, cultures, people, whatever. All of them, each petal open to the center, nurturing it and being nurtured by it. Yeah. And there can be added as many as there are, millions of them, individuals and collectives. Now, and even we can place each of those at the very center. And that's what I'm going to invite you right now with an exercise. Yeah, place yourself at the center of your wealth. Yeah. And from there, acknowledge your participatory nature, embrace it, and recall the most loving qualities of your own heart and resonate with it. Stay with it for a moment. The most loving qualities of your heart are a resource in itself. Stay with it for a moment. Yeah. Yeah. So culture is a human key resource, and each thought, feeling, and action counts, since it always nurtures the culture. Yeah. Resources, culture, can be visible, hidden, and potential. The resources that are visible, or at least acknowledging by us, is those our lenses admit. Sometimes there are actual resources that are hidden, and when we see it, then, oh, we can use it. And now I go to an example. In the late 90s, I came to know a bank that presented a financial and economical innovation, a bank created to overcome poverty. And its main characteristic is that the loans are facilitated mostly to women cooperating in groups of 5. And initially, it was oriented to the loans, and later, in a moment of great crisis, they redesigned it, learning into something, how this individual and collective go together very closely. This bank is the Grameen Bank, founded by Muhammad Yunus, Pakistan, an economist, a classical economist, trained as a classical economist, yes. The initial version, in the late 70s, I bring only 2 characteristics that are very important to acknowledge this play among the individual and the collective. The amounts, it was loan-oriented, and the amounts were fixed by the bank, and with weekly equal loan payments, equal amounts of money the borrower had to give back. Oh, this is risky, but you can go a long way without having a crisis because of that. And the other one is that it required a non-written guarantee. They didn't ask people to sign for a written guarantee because the amounts were very slow. But if one in the group of 5 failed to give it back, the rest couldn't access to new loans. And this is highly risky at the level of the entire system. And what happened? After 20 years of being more and more successfully, climate adverse conditions came in. And the borrowers began to fail. And the groups began to fail. The bank was facing catastrophe. The entire region was affected. And they had to really go through it. And from there, they learned they had their own tipping point and were successful. They recreated it to be people-oriented, flexible, with upgrading amount. The borrower knew a path. They self-administrated. And when the loans reached a certain amount, they had to set apart a portion of it as a saving. So with those savings, in this pool, they could not take, they replaced a warranty. When there was a difficulty, the borrower could use the savings. And also, a bit further, a portion was set apart for a pension for old age. A pension that does not burden the state nor the society, yeah? And it really, it was not required anymore, the warranty, since the group really went to a function of mutual support, nurturing creativity and productivity, yeah? And with this we can acknowledge that resources are abundant. There are always more than what we can acknowledge. We only need the right lenses. And nowadays, it is particularly nurturing wisdom and amiability. And that we can do nurturing attractors. And today, I shared one of them, an attractor that the Economía AMABLE proposes to nurture this, yeah? To nurture the we and me, yeah? And now, time for you to contribute. We listen carefully.
Yes, we are listening. This was fascinating, Silvia. There's so much to absorb here. I'm wondering, before we move on, if there are any questions on specific points that came up. And you can raise your hand, your digital hand. There's a reactions button at the bottom. Or you can just put it in chat.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Silvia. Just to clarify something, you had the picture of the petals and the center, the flower with the petals. And I am wondering what the center is. And the best I could understand is you suggested culture as the center. Perhaps I'm wrong, but then it seemed as if the petals were the cultures and the diverse cultures were different petals and not the center. So I am wondering, in your picture, when you said to focus on the center, what is that center?
The petals is the diversity, the huge diversity, and the center is the unity. So each petal can be placed at the center, and everything we really want to promote is in the center. For example, abundance, well-being, flourishing, vitality, health is in the center. That's why we put it there and we nurture it there. And nowadays we have a multicultural humanity, and all of those cultures, the wisdom of all those cultures can nurture the center, yeah? If we see it fragmented, this culture and this other, we have to go to each one of them separately. But the idea is to let go of fragmentation and see the center and nurture the center and let it nurture us. It is another paradigm. I know it is not easy, but that's it. The same at the same time. Makes that sense?
Well, may I ask, are you saying then that there is something universal that is true for all cultures that is at the center? For instance, well-being or abundance, these would be universal, about which all cultures would agree, but it seems as if different cultures have different understandings of all of those concepts.
Of course, but love is in all of us. Yeah, in every culture, you can see the love in family. That not always is there, but there is. We are loving beings, for example. Yeah, and humanity is universal. We are the same species. No matter where we are. So there are there is a unity for us that we can nurture. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Peter, are you able to activate your microphone now?
Yes, sorry about that.
Sure.
I was unmuted one place and muted in the other. Thank you for this talk. I wonder, given the last question about different cultures and different paradigm shifts, you went to the Edgar Morin Rio University, and I'm a transdisciplinarian, influenced by both Edgar and Basarab Nicolescu. So maybe you could comment more about the educational environments that maybe you've experienced or that we need to blend these ideas into something more creative and future empowering. Thank you.
Yeah, precisely those authors you mentioned are a reference for me, both of them. I think that today it is more important to think about learning and learning in many dimensions, not only intellectually and not so much education, being active at it. Yeah, so Nicolescu has this, we can put it next when this transdisciplinarity chart or something like that, very manifesto, which is a good reference to understand this, because he is a quantum physicist. So this is also, when we go to the center of this flower, we put there, for example, a world in which older people are highly regarded, but because of their wisdom and presence. Yeah, in this way, we can tune into the promising. That is linked to the quantum physics, and Nicolescu is a quantum physicist. Thank you for bringing this.
Yeah, Jen?
Thank you. Thank you for this presentation, Silvia. I see the center as being, depending upon what frame of reference we are thinking about, our topic that we're thinking about, it's what is common for all of us based on love and, as Tom suggested, well-being and health for the whole. And I just want to talk about the conflict between that motivation and the venal motivation that tends to drive our business community. My family started way back in the 1870s, the first health insurance company, and it was then it was then able to be entered as a mutual benefit association rather than being governed by the standard corporate rules. And that meant that all of the people who were workers, who were basically paying for their own health insurance, contributed when there was a call. And that call would cover them. So for a certain period of time, they would respond to the call. And they would spend down, and then there would be another call. Well, they expanded over a period way up until the 1930s, when we were in the middle of, the worst recession that we've ever had in the U.S. And there were insurance companies going by the wayside, which were regular corporations. So the state of Massachusetts, where the company was, Mutual Benefit Association was housed, put in a regulation that said that they had to have a certain percentage of the risk, in other words, what the policyholders could ask for, in the bank, which of course was a totally different, stemmed from a different philosophy, which was that that corporations can get their money based upon the risk. They have stockholders, et cetera, et cetera. But the question is, is there room for us in the world? How can we, I think we need to change the regulations to allow for more green corporations, in other words, cooperatives, mutual benefit associations. And I think that what happens, unfortunately, is that this is okay at a certain, local or people who work in this one field. But when it expands, then it rubs up against a whole other ethic, which some people might call capitalism. There's a pull and tug here. And I do think, though, that Economía AMABLE I associate with mutual benefit associations, which I believe in my heart is a network, a flat network. It's organized as a network where everyone is equal. And it is not an organization which has a hierarchy and a bureaucracy. So how do we do that with 8 billion people? Well, we start with each locality and each community and each country and et cetera, and talk about it right here. That's all I have to say.
Can I?
I just want to add something to this. It sounds, Jan, that one of your main concerns is adapting the scale of what seems to work in a very local nature, how to adapt the scale to a global one. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, this what you told here, the network and a flatter organization in the mainstream is important, super important. But I recall you here at Pass It On Network, we have a tool which is We Are the Ones, which is an organizational tool, super important to practice it, to nurture it. And at the level of the banking industry, it is, I didn't mention it, but the Grameen Bank was awarded not the Nobel Prize of Economy, it was awarded the Nobel Prize for Peace. So this is a way of, if the mainstream could learn a lot from cases like that. But it happened to me that I went into that by chance, not because I work at the bank. And what is also important that because they didn't take advantage of lessons learned in the banking industry that has more than 500 years, they had to go to their own great crisis. So there is something that I think little by little will opening up so that we are more able to learn and to innovate at the mainstream also, because something that is important for any bank at any level, and more important if it is a big company, that if the economy is healthy, the organizations in the economy are healthy. So we have to learn how to benefit each other and together. So with that, I'm go to silence. Thank you. Excuse.
I just again want to comment on something. The example you gave, Silvia, was of a bank, and Jan, you also focused on the relationship with the financial world, and I'm wondering from everybody here in the call, if you can think of examples that we could imagine in other contexts. I think some of those Earth-like examples that you had there in one of the slides was financial, of course, cyber, cultural, physical. If anybody can think about or suggest other areas where we can scale up something that is local.
The thing I would talk about is spiritual. And that there is, I think, with the climate and the threat to the whole earth, that may be something that encourages working together. And there is in most traditions an emphasis on the common good. And that is something that we could call upon.
Oh, thank you, Brian. All these things are just bringing so many thoughts. I want to pose another question, and you can go back to other ones too. Silvia mentioned resources. That's 3 kinds of resources. One was visible, the ones that we know, I don't know, water or creativity, our family, our friends, our community, anything. And ones that are hidden, that they're there, but we have not discovered them yet. But if we look, maybe we will find them with some association. And the third kind are potential resources, ones that could be there. We don't know yet how they could be useful, but they have potential. Maybe we don't see them yet. And I'm wondering if you could take this idea and maybe think about some examples of this in your context. Like for yourself, for example, that's the smallest unit that we have before we go into family, community, country, global, everything else. Maybe something will come up. You can put it also in chat. One of the, as we're drawing to a close here very soon, just if you reflect back on the entire session, which was really complex and required us to go and get a very holistic and wholesome, and maybe out of this world view on where we are. What surprised you? What did you notice? What are you taking away from this? What's actionable for you?
Yeah, thank you. It's been fascinating presentation, so thank you, and good discussion. Just there were a couple of words on one of the slides that struck me on the sort of counter between miserable and promising. And I love that contrast. And for me, when I'd heard that, I thought about intention, because if I show up with an intention to be miserable, I'll be miserable. But if I show up with an intention to be promising, and with the love and all those other things that we talked about, which was great, then I'll be promising. And so that was what struck me. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I just can't help but finding the connection between this and seeing resources in yourself and others, or in your neighborhood, in your environment, is that if you come with the intention that things are going to be promising and we can improve something, you're going to find a way and the resources to proceed in that direction. Any other thoughts? Well, Rainis has a comment in the chat. I'll be looking for connections between this work and Nora Bateson warm data. Yeah, there's a link to Nora Bateson's work, and Nora Bateson's. Maybe Rainis, you can say more about this. She's an environmentalist and a friend of the planet in many different ways.
And calls for looking at the interrelationality in a system and what we're missing when we leave that out.
Yeah.
I wondered if Rains could tell us a bit more about his squirrel fund.
Sure. In brief, and I had some more in chat about the Squirrel Fund was an effort we had to help our older neighbor make sure she had enough money to continue to stay in the community between Social Security, their weak social network in the U.S. not be enough for housing expenses, food, and taxes, and there exist these commercial tools that we were trying to replicate, this reverse mortgage, but we found along the way, okay, rather than we started the process of helping her get into the nearest thing to a pension available in the U.S. system of federally insured reverse mortgage. But in the process, we said, oh, as a community, we can better take care of this. And then in that process, getting beyond banks and finding that, oh, it's not so much the money that's a tool, but the relationships, and what she learned and we learned along the way, found new options and really changed the relationship, changed the whole of what we're looking for. So it's something definitely to write more about and share more about. But the process leads to, if you're open to it, you can lead to results far better than expected, or whole new processes, whole new ways of thinking.
Mm-hmm. Paulette?
Yeah, thank you, Sylvia. Thank you, and congrats for all those inspiring resources. Really, all of them are really inspiring and useful. So thank you so much. Very useful for all, for all the people. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're on mute.
Sorry, I was just trying to unmute. I put in the chat about a project which was actually quite similar to the one, not the last gentleman, but the one before. I can't quite read his name now. Rains. it was a self-help group. And actually the advantage there was that they didn't have bank overheads. They were all able to put money into a hat. It all started off with one meeting to begin with, and it has grown. It's in very wide districts of Tanzania now, not Tanzania, Zambia. And they all put in money. The money is collectively owned by the group, and they lend each other money. And if a particular business is failing, then they all gather round to try to do the little things that they can do to help that business over the patch. So actually, it's incredibly efficient, and the overheads are minimal, and it's really good. So, you know, having a bank may not always be a good way forward. I've also put in the chat, when we were talking about history and culture earlier, I've also put in the chat about a project that I'm working on. It's based on, inspired by UNESCO Mother Language Day. We lose a language every 10 days. And we have all this technology now, which can save them all. We can keep all the stories. All the stories can be recorded. And the way we're working it is that they will be done very, very cheaply with, they can be done by schools and communities. I can give you more information than I put in the chat.
Great, thank you very much, Valerie. We're just about getting to the end here. If anybody has one last thing to say, that might be Silvia. Just occurred to me that the mindset around this whole session that we had today was kind of financially driven, and I'm sure that that has not only it's a very pertinent issue of how do you stay financially secure, but also because Silvia is an economist with a lot of years experience. So naturally it went there, but I want to encourage you to also take everything that we heard today and extend it to other areas that are not financial. It might be very interesting. Silvia, how would you sum up this interesting?
Thank you, Osnat. Exactly that. This had a bit a financial perspective, because we don't speak much about that here, and I found it was interesting to bring it, to link it from there. But it can be applied really in every aspect of our life, in our own context and also worldwide. And thinking of the rights of older people, and in the amiability that allows us to nurture a solidarity between people of different ages, different races. The different are together nowadays, since there are so much migrations and families scattered all around the world, that it is so important to nurture this amiability and to create abundance from abundance. Yeah, what we can create together, and perhaps look at it. How can this help us regarding rights? Yeah. So that's it. Thank you very much for allowing me to bring this. That is a bit difficult, conceptual. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Silvia. This was a different tone, and I think we'll appreciate it. There's a few things before we close formally. One is I put in the chat, and I encourage you to click on it before you log off. I put in chat a link to a survey that we just want to know what you thought about the session. How can we improve other ones? And it's going to be very helpful. The second thing is, if you've participated in these sessions before, we send a kind of a highlight letter to you a few days after the session. In it, there'll be a link to the recording that will be on our YouTube channel, the Pass It On Network YouTube channel. And I'd like to tell you what will happen in July. In July, we have another session. It is going to be on the 10th of July, same time, same place. You just have to get a different link. You'll see it in the invitation in your mail very soon. And we have in this session, in the theme of the working group for the rights of older people, the UN session that just happened in April, we're welcoming Dr. Omakaro. She's the Director General of Nigerian National Senior Citizen Center. And what she's going to speak about is, excuse me, the policy that the Nigerian government have for the National Senior Center and the progress that is being made in that policy in Nigeria. Nigeria is a very large country in Africa, so we know that whatever they do is going to have a lot of impact, and the training objectives for caregivers. Excuse me. So she will also speak about the important role Nigeria is playing in the intercessional work of the UN Open-Ended Working Group on Aging and towards the Convention for the Rights of Older People. And Nigeria has been a major player also from the African continent, and that came to be very visible and very important this year. And we hope that many more countries in Africa will join, because they are, in 30 years, they will almost triple their population. So very important. So come back on the 10th of July for this session. And again, please do the survey that we posted in the chat. I'm going to leave the room open for another few minutes, but right now I'm going to close it formally. And thank you again for being here today. And we wish Moira a quick recovery from a cold and regaining her voice for the next time. I hope we're going to hear it loud and clear the next time we hear. All right. There she is. So we're now closed formally. If you need to leave, please do go ahead. If you have anything else that you'd like to share, we have another few minutes just to share whatever is on your mind. And there's Jan. Jan raised her hand.
I was
What's
just
up, Jan?
thinking, now that I have had the opportunity to think about other versions of the Economía AMABLE, I thought about the development of the village-to-village community approach. That was initiated first in the US as the Transition Network, but in many places now, there basically is no budget besides what people contribute as the membership. And if they are not able to contribute, they can still be members. This is providing care, both for a particular locale, a particular community, a particular region, where people can join, and either they will be helping other people by providing transportation, by bringing food, by doing a Meals on Wheels at the door, coming to the food. There are many different possibilities for that care, or they are being helped. Usually there's a coordinator that works with the people who sign up to receive the care. But it works best, I think, when we can both give it and receive it. Villages, there are thousands of them now around the world. And that concept, I think, fits well for the Economía AMABLE. So but there are probably other examples that people have thought of. And in a way, Silvia, it would be good if we could, kind of document these as they come to us, because it would be helpful then for you to be able to show these different options that fit along with the one that Valerie suggested, for example, as basically self-help, mutual benefit, doing for ourselves and each other, sharing our assets, individual assets. I mean, this is the heart of the matter for what we want to pass on. It's pass it on network.
We are the ones we've been waiting for.
Right.
There's Margaret and then Rainis.
Hi, everyone. Sorry that I joined late, Silvia. I wanted to hear the whole presentation, but I think I got a bit of the flavor near the end, and then I look forward to watching all your good, great, wonderful YouTube videos that you share on the subject. I just want to do a quick call-out, shout-out from this morning's debrief meeting with the co-facilitators from the Open-Ended Working Group on Aging and on what's going to happen moving forward on intersectional work. There will be a questionnaire that is distributed for all civil society to provide input. So we are planning to do some, see if there's opportunity, interest to do some focus groups, regional consultations, and I really encourage, especially with Pass It On Network's track record in advocacy and our diversity in population and regionally and from the perspectives that we bring, right? Especially we see this today, that we actually provide input. And the input that's being looked for is two things. One ultimately is what are the gaps today in human rights for older people? So that we can comment to that from our different perspectives. And then with the output of that, there's a chance then to kind of look at what recommendations will be made to all the governments based on these gaps. Like, what do we do about that? So I think it's very important. And today in my opening statement, I said that we have voices of older people speaking up, as well as NGOs. And the ambassador was very encouraged and said, yes, we need older people feedback. So I think this is one of the key forums that I see that we can channel and collect feedback. Paulette was there in this morning's meeting, as well as maybe others that I couldn't identify because we had a really huge turnout, I think 115, which I think blew the ambassadors away. So just want to flag that moving forward. And then we can see relative to MM's presentation, how we can do a little bit of highlight from that, not to take a lot of the floor, but because the questionnaires might be coming out maybe just around July, and we have a tight timeline to work on it. So just want to do that plug in and update. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. This is like straight from the field. We'll keep an eye on it and also send it to our contacts here in Pass It On Network to increase the momentum and the impact. And Rainis.
I just wanted to say thank you, Jan. I've been studying the village networks, helping people stay in their homes and organizing local support networks for some time since their inception, Beacon Hill Village in Boston. And I do see that, I mean, there are ones that are failing and struggling, even for people who put investment in them of money and effort. And I see the number are sort of making, it's frustrating to me to see groups repeating the same mistakes that I've seen elsewhere in other groups, from computer user groups to co-housing neighborhoods and others, of building community and sort of being so focused, so lovely on what you're building in your community that you sort of talk mostly among each other and don't look further. And so this is where I hope the message of Pass It On And the idea that we are not alone, whatever we're doing together. I'm working a bit with Joel Shapiro, who was on the National Village Network board, about how do we help villages and other groups go deeper and look more at the interrelationship and build a more sustainable basis economically and otherwise. And so that's where I'm excited about the potential. And I'll just repeat what I had put in the chat earlier, that the Parliament of World Religions is coming up in August in Chicago, and the new Passageways to Elderhood Alliance, PEAL, is hoping to ring those church bells and help people form connections and go a little deeper in co-promoting events and building alliances and helping the organizations working in this area better understand each other. So thank you for that opportunity to share. Looking forward to more.
I am proposing that we close now. I'm going to stop the recording.